Here's a 60-minute chart on Amazon.com. And here's what all traders, professional or non-professional, face. Is that when Amazon originally had made its gap up with a big short squeeze on that one day, we made this high up here. And one thing about what traders need to know, that during different time frames is a major critical area of when we made the high. Let's go to these MACD bars, which stayed up here. But look what happened on 330, but 331 is that there was a slight left descending pattern going. When something like this occurs, that means that the trend momentum to the upside is weakening when these are descending. They take time because it's a lagging effect before you finally get something like this. And major pivot lines that get broke on negative volume create that scenario. And basically, one thing about having a 60-minute sell signal is they're not buyable and holdable overnight. When you have a 60-minute buy signal, that's a different story. But when you got these 60-minute sell signals, they're only tradable. You buy the bottom and you sell in resistance. And you sell that short up at the top. And what traders are learning here early on is that how to avoid a train wreck. And basically on the 60-minute chart is that half of this bar is I'm not above it on 60. I've got to get back above here. I've got a distribution wick and I'm below half of my 60-minute bar. The point of this particular tape for SMF Pro Trading students is to understand that anything at all that ever has a sell signal is only tradable intraday and not holdable long, meaning not being long overnight. When you go back, they're tradable, but they're not holdable overnight. And this is that 60-minute chart with that 60-minute sell signal that hit. And notice that it started to descend here and here. And before it ever even got there, you could see where the trend was weakening because this bar was lower than the previous bar, and that bar was lower than that bar, and then that bar was lower than that MACD bar. That's what this is called. And then when you got into the sell signal, you're in the sell signal, and you have found support right here, but the trend will remain weak. The 10-minute and 20-minute period moving averages have crossed over, and that's the problem to the upside, is that on the 60, it's going to take a lot more work than it does on a 15. That's what the rule is, that once they start to descend, your trend is weakening. You didn't go straight down, but the weakness started to show up here before the trend caught up to itself and went down and made that move. And basically, we shot right back up and tested this reversal. And we've come right back down, and we must maintain a closing price above 132.25. That's at the end of the day. You want to get back above this 132.25. And the good thing about being tradable, people, is that you're able to always be down here and buying that low end that you're taught to do here. Look at all our videotapes on stock market funding. We don't hold them overnight in the sell signal because then you don't get to buy these off the bottom wholesale and selling into retail. You would always be a seller into strength. You buy off the bottom and you sell into strength as long as this is going on. Eventually, in our next segment, we'll find out how the stock would move higher before this changes. Just kind of like you're being taught how this started to move lower and how the trend started to weaken as these were moving lower. On the bottom side, we will hit here, but we're not there because we're still kind of peaking a little bit lower. But we would hit, just like we started to sell there, we will eventually hit a bottom in the indicator and then start the other way. But that hasn't occurred. And the thing about this whole thing with SMF Pro Trading students is when we're in this mode, we want to be in position to buy off of that lower end, that wholesale price, and selling back to the public who are still in the stock, and selling into the resistance channels. And knowing that the minute period crossovers are wide, so we got a lot to overcome on the 60 minute.